isn't like totally clear. It's not propaganda where it's like, oh, she means this. No, you have to look at it and go, is she saying this, or is she trying to say this, or what is she trying to say? And then other people come in and then they have different ideas or see different things, and so it makes her work makes for really interesting conversations, and it has staying power. It's work that people want to come back to and see again. And if it was hanging on their wall in their house, I'm sure they, every week they would see new things in it or see it in a different way.
Do you think everyone would relate to her, even people who don't have, or would relate to her paintings, even people who don't have childhood trauma or descendants from El Salvador? Or people like
everyone relate to a painting of hers. They're very relatable because they contain figures, characters. I think the unpacking the childhood trauma painting, some people, I brought my drawing class down to have a conversation. I think for some people it was just too intense. They didn't want to go there.
Yeah.
Maybe it brought up certain emotions in them, or just right away they saw, oh, there's some negativity in this painting. I can't go there. So is that relating, but in a negative way, or is that not relating? You know what I mean?
But with art, is it like negative in any way to relate? Do you think like the purpose of a painting is to evoke emotion, or can it just have aesthetic value? Or do you think, I know this is kind of a weird question, but do you think Sydney's paintings sometimes just have aesthetic value, or are they always more emotional?
I think that what she does beautifully is both. These paintings, and work with her on them as her teacher while she was working at home in her home studio, Zoom conversations. But when I got to see the painting in person for the first time, it was unwrapped here right before the show. We were going to frame it in our framing workshop. One of the other artists looked at it and burst out into tears. And then while they were hanging the show, Chris West, who did an amazing job hanging the show, he's the director of the gallery, he said that a friend of his, who he wouldn't describe as a very sensitive person, a sensitive guy, came into the show and was poking around while Chris was finishing up, and stopped in front of this painting of Cindy Matos, and it's called Unpacking the Childhood Trauma, or Unpacking Child. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And he just turned to Chris, and his eyes were streaming with tears, and he said something like, "I totally understand this painting."
To set up and depress your feelings, especially like as you mentioned in your family. I know I'm coming from like Hispanic family as well, and our feelings are not let out ever, especially being a male. But can you explain that a little bit more? Why with that painting, and how is that connected to your life?
Yeah, the painting that you're referring to is Unlocking the Childhood Trauma. Again, I didn't really find a way to express my own feelings, but also what I've been through, especially as a kid. And that painting came to be when I was doing a self-portrait, and I had this flashback where I saw myself in that position again, and it kept bothering me, and I was like, I have to paint it out because it's just irritating. And so when I came with this concept of actually expressing what I went through without explicitly saying like, oh, I went through this, because I'm not comfortable with sharing it to everyone, like, oh, I went through this. But I started doing the painting, and it was like a feeling of, it was just a roller coaster of emotions where I was crying, and I had to step back from it, and then I came into it again. But when I was done with the painting, I just was really happy that I was finally able to experience that. But after completing the painting, I'm like, no, this is part of me. I have to accept it, and I'm pretty sure others have had a similar experience the way that I had it, especially coming from like a Hispanic household, where I've heard a couple stories that resonate with me without me actually telling them like, oh, I went through the same thing. I just hear it, and I'm like, yeah, I went through that. And so this feeling is can be a healing for myself, but it can also be an invitation for others to go through that process of healing as well in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, her painting, it's called Afternoon with a Fawn. Beautiful colorist technique. The whole thing is done with a painting knife, which is a type of palette knife. There's not a single brush stroke as far as I know.
Oh, it's all?
It's all that way. And
Ah.
she took it as a personal challenge. Oh, let me do this
Yeah.
without using a brush. And it has notes on, it has a musical score with little notes in it that was all done with a knife. I mean, it's incredible. And I didn't insist that she do that. She gave that as a challenge to herself. And the way that the lighting is rendered, when you see the painting, you'll see, and you know, it's jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Yeah.
She's very young, but where do you see her going in life?
Wow. You know, Cindy Mata, from my point of view, she gives everything she's got to whatever she does. I mean, I would love to see her take off as a professional artist. I feel that she has the potential to do that. I mean, when your painting can move two different people who don't know you, who are seeing it in completely different contexts, move both of them to tears, and that's a whole reason to see a show if one painting does that. So I think, you know, she has that potential, but I think Cindy can do whatever she wants to do.